Hello, it's Michael E. Gerber speaking to you from Carlsbad, California, the land that God created just for you and just for me. We have an absolutely fascinating story today. Something so far out, it's going to be difficult for you to even believe it. Our guest, Jason Hernandez, is going to tell us what his life's been like. Being put in prison for life. Hear me, put in prison at the age of 21 for life. And then, because he made up his mind that he wasn't going to stay in prison for life, he's here with us 18 years after he left prison because of the clemency that was handed to him, because he pursued it with everything he's got. And if that doesn't mirror the entrepreneurial seizure that people possess, people who create great results because they're moved in a great uncompromising way, Jason lives that, is that, and is an exemplary model for every single human being on the planet because he saved his life to do the great work he's here to do today. I want to introduce you to Jason Hernandez, and let's have a conversation about clemency and redemption. Hello, Jason.
Hello, Michael. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm blessed. I'm blessed.
You are blessed. You are blessed. And you're a blessing to all of us. Hear me. I've heard only pieces and parts of your entire story. And I'd like to give a really clear introduction to everybody who's joining us today. And for the continuing people who will be joining us on YouTube, to actually get to know Jason, to get to know what you represent, and to get to know why that's so significant, why that's so important to anybody and everybody who is not clear about what their path is, who is not clear about what their outcome is, who is not clear about what it means to take total responsibility for the way you live your life. And the irony of saying that about a man who was put in prison at 21 years of age and stayed in prison for 18 years next to all kinds of folks who've done bad things, evil things, exceptional things. Who knows what they've done? I can't even imagine the stories you could share with us. But right now, let's play that video. Welcome to Jason.
When you're in prison so long, and because of the way they treat you in there, like an animal, you tend to start feeling like an animal, if not acting like an animal. And you become kind of desensitized and dehumanized. And it really wasn't until the change.org petition that my brother made for me, and the responses that I received from people in my own community, a community that I once poisoned, that even the people there were saying that I deserved a second chance, that I wasn't a bad kid. I was just a kid who made bad decisions, and I didn't deserve to die. And just to read, some of the comments that my teachers made about me, just made me feel human again.
Jason, it was very, very difficult for me to hear that. I'm sorry. It may be my hearing. It may be the fault of the producer of the show, who we'll talk to after the show, both of us. And whatever it was, at least we got a little bit of a glimpse of it. So Jason, let me ask you the very essential question. You were in prison for 18 years. You're now on the street. Please share with us what it was like to leave prison and be on the street. The moment you left prison and found yourself on the street, talk to us about that.
Well, it was like being born again, obviously. I mean, it was like a second birth certificate that I received from the president to get my life back. And outside the gates were my mother and father, who had always been there for me, despite even all the wrong that I was doing. And I remember my father turning me around and he pointed at the prison and he said, "Son, look at the prison and you don't have to think about it no more. This will be the last time that you'll have to see a prison ever." And I told him, "Dad, you know what? I'm going to look at that prison, but I'm going to ingrain it in my brain because I don't want to forget about those people that are in there. I don't want to forget what it felt like waking up every day, going to sleep every day, thinking I was going to die in prison, because I wanted to come out and I wanted to continue to fight for them people that were in there, because there are some people who made bad mistakes that are in there, but then there's some of the most amazing people that I met are in there as well. And I wanted to give them a second chance, and people who I felt that were probably more worthy of a second chance than me, but they just didn't believe. People who were more intelligent than me, but they just didn't have that power, that desire, or the belief that it could happen. And
so I got that. And where did that come from? What was the shift while you were in prison that suddenly moved you from being in prison to heading out? Making up your mind, I'm not going to be here anymore.
Yeah, that was about 5-6 years into my prison sentence in 2002, because my older brother, who I admired and loved so much and looked up to, he was murdered in prison in 2002.
Oh my goodness.
And you talk about being at your lowest. It just hit me rock bottom. And I'll be honest, I was going to take my own life. I was going to commit suicide. And at that moment, like right before I was going to actually do it, I'm looking in the mirror and, I'm mad at the system, but I'm mad at myself for making the decisions that I made to go to prison. And I said, you know what? Like, today's the day. Like right now, starting at this point, I'm going to do everything possible to give my brother's life meaning, that he didn't die for nothing, that through the loss of his life, I'm going to get my life back. And I'm going to live every day like I'm going home tomorrow. I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen. I know it's not going to happen tomorrow, next week, or next year, that it's going to take decades. But I know that if I didn't give up and if I didn't give in, that I would be able to fulfill that promise, that declaration to myself and to my brother, that to give his life his passing meaning.
I want everybody who's listening to us right now, who's listening to what you just said. I lived every day of my life as though I was going to be out of here.
Yeah.
Every day. Mm-hmm. Not Tuesday or not next Thursday or not next. Every day I woke up with the intention that I will be out of here.
Yeah.
Which then drove the actions which you took. So those actions which you took weren't available to you before you took them. You created them. That's the story I'm hearing. That's the conviction that I'm hearing. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
How do I do that? How do I do that? Now, I don't want to become self-involved in this conversation myself, but I want to bring in the story of the E-Myth Revisited, the E-Myth which you read in prison. And you just told me something of that prior to our conversation here. When did that happen?
Just like you just said earlier, as far as I didn't know how I was going to go about getting out of prison. I didn't understand the mindset about doing that. And it's weird when, that positive mental attitude, what you put out, you get back in. And the universe will just guide you where you need to be. And by meeting certain people, reading certain books, and one of the most important books I read when I was incarcerated was the E-Myth. I found that book in the prison that I was at. It was sitting on a bookshelf. It was torn apart. I looked at it. It was a pretty old book. I grabbed it. There was a lot of markings in there from other prisoners already. And I was seeing some of the passages in there. And when I looked at it, when I was just breezing through it, it wasn't about a business book. It was more about who you are as a person, right? Because it was about your business is one thing, but your business is a reflection of who you are, and
Yep.
who you are is what you do day in, day out. And that's what when I started reading the E-Myth, it just gave me that mind frame, right? And it was some of the most important aspects that I read were the visualization, right? That you have to kind of visualize what it is that you want in life. Like you just don't sit back and imagine it and daydream. That you kind of have this obsession of what does that final picture look like? Because if you don't know what the final picture looks like, you're not going to know how to get there.
And what you just said, though, Jason, is actually what those who have read my books are most moved by. And that is, it's not about it, it's about me.
Mm-hmm.
Because the business is only a reflection of my intent.
Yes.
And my intent isn't just a loosey-goosey dream about maybe someday I'll whatever, and the horns will start playing and the saxophones will follow up and the rhythm section come. It's not like that. It's a process.
Yes.
It's my primary aim. It's my strategic objective. It's my organization chart. It's my step by step, the eightfold process, the 7 steps. Whatever it was something that infused that part of you who was on his way out. And in fact, that became your business plan. I'm telling you what it became. Hear me, I'm responding to what you've said. So then what happened?
Well, and the most important, I mean, the entire book is important of the E-Myth, but it was, you know what it was? It was that primary aim, right? Where it tells you to sit back and visualize if you're at your own funeral, right? And you're talking about a visualization. You give the way that you put that on the E-Myth about being at your funeral, everybody there, and what do you want to be spoken about you, right? What do you want to hear if you could actually be at your funeral? And it's like you said, right? The difference between great people and everybody else is that great people actively create their life, while everybody else just lets life kind of dictate where they go. And
everybody else, it just happens to them.
Yeah, it just happens to them. And what I found and what I learned through the E-Myth is that the circumstances are never going to be right to do something great. That you have to kind of create your own circumstances, right? And that's what, from the primary aim.
Repeat that, Jason. The circumstances are never always right. You have to create your own circumstances.
Yeah, there's going to always be something holding you back. I mean, don't wait. I think something about my story is that you don't have to wait until you graduate, until you get a raise, until you get a degree, until you become vice president of your corporation or become president of the United States to make a change or to change your life. That the time is now for you, right? There's always going to be something holding you back, and it's up to you to take the initiative and just pursue your dreams.
So tell me, Jason, tell everybody who's listening. So how'd you get out?
Well, the first thing I did was, and I created my own organization while I was incarcerated called Crack Open the Door. Knew nothing about businesses or anything, how to run one. But one thing I learned about Crack Open the Door was that, to me, and just like in the E-Myth, every part of my organization, even though maybe nobody would probably ever see it in the free world, was that everything was important. And you're talking about, I created these worksheets, these profiles, glue, staple, toothpaste, but I put them together Like I felt like I was an organization like the ACLU or the NAACP, and I would send them out to judges, to senators. And the one thing the most important thing that I did was I sent a letter to President Barack Obama in 2011, asking him to give me a second chance. And I told President Obama, I have these, I have these visions of, and not just dreams. And I said to speak of them as dreams would not be appropriate, because I visualize myself going back to my community, preventing kids from doing what I did to learn right from wrong, to prevent mothers and fathers having to go through what my mother and father went through. I didn't know what I was putting my mother and father through the actions that I was doing. So I told him to give me the second chance to go back to my community and make a change and make an impact. And he was the only one that could, make that vision come true. So I sent that to him, September 23rd.
When you say you took that to him.
Oh, no, I sent it to him. I mailed it to him. I'm sorry.
You wrote it to him. Thank you.
Yeah, right. I mailed it to him. And I just felt, I'm not going to lie, I didn't send it on a whim. I felt that if he would read it and not focus on me and my crime, but me as a person, as an individual, as what I've done since I was incarcerated. Because when I was incarcerated, I got degrees. I prevented other people from, I was on what was called a suicide watch team, where I prevented other prisoners from committing suicide. I was on an outreach program. It was where they brought kids in and I would mentor them. It wasn't a scare straight, because I don't believe in that. But I wanted him to see me as a person. And I felt that if he did, he would give me that second chance. 26 months later, after I wrote that letter, they called me to the warden's office, and the warden said, "Are you Jason Hernandez, inmate number 07031-078? I said, "Yes, sir, I am." He goes, "Well, I have an executive order from the President of the United States, Barack Obama, commuting your sentence of life without parole to 20 years, that you're no longer going to die in prison." And, and obviously, the first thing I said was, "You're bullshitting me, right?" And he goes, "No." And he turned around this paper, and I see President Barack Obama's signature and this gold seal. And right there, they say men don't cry. You definitely don't cry in prison. But right there, I just let it all out.
Oh, man, Jason, how spectacular. How absolutely spectacular. It's not political. It's human. It's absolutely spectacular. You created that. You created that.
Yeah. And
go on.
Yeah. And I think, and picture that, right? This was a goal that I set back in 2002. I didn't know that the president was going to do this, but I knew that if I didn't give up and if I didn't give in and I stayed committed to my declaration to myself and to my brother of living every day like I was going to go home tomorrow, that it would eventually happen. And a prisoner who writes the president, the most powerful man in the world, not only did he read my letter, but he took the time to answer it. So if I can do that from an 8x6 prison cell, life without parole, plus 320 years, my brother just murdered. If I can do that from there, imagine what you can do, right? With your freedom, with your health, here in the United States, one of the greatest countries in the world, right? Nothing should be holding you back. I think that if you take anything from my story, don't let nobody tell you what you can and what you can't be and what you can't do. That ultimately, it's up to you. If you believe and you have that desire and that passion, and you just don't give up. You take no for an answer. Never take no.
Jason, what's so absolutely moving about your story to me is that you were alone in all this. Meaning, if you didn't, it wouldn't.
Yeah.
If Jason hadn't, none of this would have happened. Period. I just envision you in that little cell, keeping your vision, keeping your vision, keeping your vision, sustaining the intent behind it. It's an astonishing thing. It's an astonishing thing, because we're sharing it with all these people who are watching this. And so few of them truly know what that is, because they're not completely focused. the way you had to be, with everything against you. I mean, in one respect, it was just an impossible intent. I mean, 320 years, here's a guy, just a guy from the street in prison, in that tiny cell, carrying yourself forward with this deep conviction. Where did that come from?
Yeah, well, again, I wouldn't be here today had it not been for my brother's passing. I would probably still be in stop. And I would do this throughout the day. I'd stop and I'd say, Jason, where are you going right now? Wherever you're going, is it in furtherance of your goal and your commitment of honoring your brother's life? Wherever you just came from, is it in furtherance of your goal and your commitment of honoring your brother's life? What did you do yesterday? What are you going to do tomorrow? Whatever you did yesterday, could have you done it in a better way in case that opportunity presents you again? When I would go to sleep, evaluate what I did that night. Am I where I want to be, where I said I would be? What am I going to do tomorrow when I wake up? And it's just that obsession, right? You got to be, if you want something in life, you got to be obsessed with it. If you're not thinking about it when you wake up, you're not thinking about it before you go to sleep, you're probably not going to achieve it. And that's what you have to do.
I love it, Jason. I absolutely love it. So now you're out in the street. You've been out in the street since
2015.
15?
Yes.
Great. What happened then?
My first day of release.
I'm sorry, wrong question. What did you do then?
The first thing I did, and I had always told myself, my first day of release, I was going to go see my brother's gravesite, and just let him know that that I kept my word. All right. And the second thing, it's as you know, Michael, it's the little things that matter in life. And the next thing that I did was I went to my mother's and father's house, who, thank God, I had told God, if anything, just let me see my mother and father free one more time. And he granted that wish. So I went home. I'm Mexican. I ate my mom tortillas and beans, right? And I want to, when I was in prison, one of my dreams, one of my goals was being at my house and cleaning the beans. Because I remember when I was a little kid, my mom would throw the beans on the table and she would say, you can't go outside and clean until you clean all those beans. And I was 6, 7, and I hated doing it. I'd be on the table taking out all these rocks and these dirty beans. But when I was in prison, I said, man, I would do anything just to be back at that table again and cleaning those beans with my mom and not being mad, but having conversations with her, talking with her about her life, what it was like for her growing up. So, I think everybody has one of those clean and beans stories. And again, it's the little things in life, not about how many people are following you on Facebook or social media, what's your title behind your name, or how much money you got, or how big your house is. It's about, why were you put on this earth, right? We all have gifts. We all have talents. What are you doing not only to better your life, but to better other people's lives in the process? And I think that's where true wealth comes from.
I love it. So you went home and visited with your mother and father.
Yes.
And ate the beans and the tortillas.
Tortillas and beans.
And then what did you do?
After that, again, my goal, my commitment in that 8x6 cell was not only to give my brother's life meaning by getting my life back, but to help other people in the process, to change better and to save other people's lives. And those people that I felt that I left back in prison, I wanted to do whatever I could to try to help them out. So I actually started doing petitions. I'm not an attorney. I was considered a jailhouse attorney in prison, but I came out, I started doing petitions for other people that were incarcerated, serving life without parole sentences for nonviolent drug crimes. And I actually helped 6 other individuals serving life without parole receive clemency, just like I did, from President Barack Obama. And
Wow.
So just, you know,
So then what?
uh, another thing too, I had these dreams, I had these goals of wanting to come back to my community and to prevent kids from getting involved in drug activity, go back to the jails and the juveniles that I was in, giving them guys and girls as well hope. And those dreams, those realities of speaking with senators, going to the White House, uh, trying to change the criminal justice system, what goes on inside our prisons. I did all that. I've been to the White House on 2 occasions. I've lobbied in front of senators, met with White House officials about our criminal justice system, and again, just wherever I can be of service at, based on, how would you say? I like to say, given, how do we all have pain, right? Turning that pain into power, and that's kind of like what I like to do. This pain I got, how do I turn it into power? And through my tragedies, give somebody, help somebody triumph based on my tragedy.
I got it. So what's your organization's name?
It's called Crack Open the Door, and I advocate for nonviolent crack cocaine offenders serving life without parole. And I'm not saying that they should just be automatically released, but what I'm saying is that there are individuals who meet a certain criteria that have been doing the right thing while they've been incarcerated should get a reduction, whether that's 15 years, 20 years, 25 years, that there should be light at the end of that tunnel. So that's something that I'm very passionate about, and that I've advocated since 2010 while I was incarcerated, and that I'm still doing now, 10 years later.
Wonderful. How are you supporting yourself?
I do what's called criminal justice reform. I am working for an organization right now out of New York called Open Society Foundation, and they basically pay me to help other people get out of prison, just like I did. So
got it. So you're making a living.
I'm making a living now. Yes.
Doing what you were called to do.
I believe so. What I was put on this earth for.
But at the same time, thinking as the entrepreneur within you, the creator within you, the builder and developer within you, who isn't just satisfied what I'm calling doing one at a time, but wants to move this forward, because I know you do. What does the organization, what is your strategic objective look like in terms of what you're setting out to do?
Well, I think it's the same strategic objective from when I was incarcerated, right? One thing about criminal justice reform is it's not a pretty subject, right? We're talking about prisoners. We're talking about prison in general. It's not a sexy topic. And what I have to do, I have to kind of humanize, give it that human element. And with my story and other people that have came out and that are being successful, what I ultimately trying to establish is mass clemency. And one of the campaigns that I'm working on right now is to get governors, all 50 governors, and the current president of the United States, to do a mass clemency where they release tens of thousands of individuals from prison. And that's just something, again, that process is something that I do day in, day out, evaluating what I did yesterday. What am I doing now? What am I going to do a year from now? What does that look like?
So let me speak to that for a moment. So I just heard, may have been a week ago, that 400 people are being let out of prison. The number 400 stuck with me. Mm-hmm. An immediate question that came to me is, and then what? Yeah. And then what? So in my mind, it said, it's one thing to let them out of prison. It's another thing to lead them toward creating a stunning life. Because you can let everybody out of prison, and the vast majority of them would have no idea what to do. Mm-hmm. Because there is no thing to do other than the social things that mostly don't work.
Yeah.
Like our schools don't work. Like our prison system doesn't work, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you know that, I know that. You can get enraged by that. I could get enraged by that, but that ain't going to make the difference.
Mm-hmm.
So my question of you from an entrepreneurial perspective is, if you were to take the E-Myth book that you read, and with all the notes from the prisoners who'd read it, which had to be a fascinating experience, if you took that book and followed it to pursue the objective that you have, I call it a dream, a vision, a purpose, a mission. The dream, the vision, the purpose, the mission you have, that you had in prison, that you actualized in prison. And thank God for Obama, who listened to you. What an extraordinary thing to happen. But then what? This is the question that your story raises for me. There's something waiting to be made to happen that you've been made to lead. And in my mind, it's bigger than what you're doing. Now, hear me, that doesn't demean what you're doing. You follow me?
Yes. No.
It's bigger than what you're doing. You've been called to that. And so, if that's true, right here, the first conversation we've ever had, what would that bigger thing be? If you could snap your fingers and here it is.
Well, I think it's twofold, right? One of the things that I also do is I'm very active in working with kids in our high schools and kids in our juvenile justice system. And I think that one of the things that we have to do is let's not wait until people get into trouble before we help them out.
Okay, wait a second now. You just said something in E-Myth terms, which every small business owner says, I. So I work with, I talk to, I visit, et cetera, and so forth. I want to shift that for a moment and call it it. It's not I, it's it. That effectively the creation from my life's experience is a reality, an organization that possesses the passion, the vision, the purpose, the mission, the dedication, the commitment, the zeal, the ferocious determination that our organization is committed to bring to the street. Because the only way I can reach out to every prison everywhere, every nonviolent prisoner everywhere, to everyone who can grant clemency, to everyone who wants to hear the story that very few people actually have heard. To me, that's what you exemplify, Jason. That's what you exemplify. Now understand, only because I'm living and leading the E-Myth evolution in a way that entrepreneurs grow and expand and create, like Steve Jobs did, like Bill Gates did, like Tom Watson, and on and on and on and on and on. Bigger than life. Because you're bigger than life. Do you hear me? Yeah. So I just want to leave you with that picture. And I know we'll talk more about it. Because if you're anything like what you've just described, and you're everything like you just described, you're going to pursue that question.
Well, I have one idea.
What's that?
I think a curriculum for kids out here, a curriculum for people that are incarcerated, based on what I took from the E-Myth, to give them the tools that they need to empower themselves and succeed. I mean, to me, the E-Myth, right? How it changed better and saved my life, and how it can save yours. I mean,
Well, Jason, you already got that. We already have that curriculum. We're going to make that available to you, through you, to them. That's a gift from us to you. You're a gift from you to us and to everyone. We already have that. And you're going to become instrumental in making certain that your prisoners who have no way of truly accessing it will be able to access it every week. So we have a year's program called Radical You. And Radical You is what I call the Eightfold Path. The first step in the path is I have a dream. Second step in the path is I have a vision. The third step in the path is I have a purpose.
Yep.
And the fourth step in the path is I have a mission. The fifth step is my client fulfillment system. The sixth step is my client acquisition system. The seventh step is the business. The third step is the enterprise, or the, I'm sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The eighth step. Luz Delia, my wife and partner, will send that to you if she hasn't already. That's a gift from us to you.
thank you.
It's every week a video and homework. The heart of it is the E-Myth. So we'll make absolutely certain that your path is synonymous with our path to achieve and fulfill the outcome that you're so compelled to fulfill. And as you implement it, you can go to work on it simultaneously to personalize it, so that you're in every one of those videos. You follow me?
Yes.
You're in every single one of those videos, speaking to every one of those students in prison. Now, how we do that, I don't know, but I don't give a shit.
Right? It'll happen somehow. Just believe.
It'll happen, Jason. It's done. Hear me. It's done because you're done. You've done it. You're there. You're with it. And we're going to make it happen together.
Thank you.
That's my commitment to you, because you've moved me, and you first moved Luz Delia deeply to experience the passion that you carry in your heart. Your love for your brother, your love of life, your love of the good work, your love for making something absolutely transformational happen. We'll do that together.
Thank you so much, Mike.
My delight. Absolutely. I wouldn't be here if Luz hadn't first contacted you or you contacted her. Here we are. So I want to thank you for who you are. I want you to give out your address so that everybody who's listening to us can reach out to you. There are countless people out there who want to help. They want to help you do what you're setting out to do. They've heard the power in it. They've heard the integrity in it. They've heard the no bullshit in it. That you did this in a cell is astonishing. So thank you for being you. Thank you for setting out to do what you're going to do. And we're going to help you in every way we can. So folks, hear me. Connect with Jason. Don't just sit there thinking about it. Don't even have to say, well, I'll do this, I'll do. Don't do that at all. Just connect with Jason saying, holy shit, Jason. How can I help? And Jason will let you know. Jason, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Michael.
We'll do this again.
I'm looking forward to it.
Wonderful. So ladies and gentlemen, awakening the entrepreneur within. Just seen a man who awakened the entrepreneur within himself against every odds that anybody could imagine or even hope to imagine. Not one of you has had to deal with what Jason has dealt with and come out whole. So I want you to connect with Jason. I want you to connect with me. I want you to connect with Luz Delia Gerber. I want you to connect with each and every one of us and say, we're on, we're on. Yes, we're on. We're going to make this happen. And bring your deliberation, your determination, your conviction to transform the state of the universe by putting yourself all in. All in is what it takes. As Jason said, I had to ask myself the question, what did you do yesterday? What did you do last night? What are you doing right now? What are you going to do this evening? You follow me? He had to do that every day, walking in prison, for God's sakes. What's your prison? I love you all. Be in touch. Be on purpose. Give everything you've got to create an extraordinary life. This is Michael E. Gerber saying, Jason, thank you. The producer of our show, Rob Hicks, thank you. To Luz Delia Gerber, my loving, impassioned wife, my partner, who if I don't do it, she reminds me. And if I do it, she says a little bit more. I'm saying the same thing to every single one of you. We're not screwing around here. This ain't TV. This isn't just silly folks talking about silly bullshit. This is real. I'm 83 and you're not. See you soon. Bye-bye.